Thank you and welcome to the regular business meeting for the District of Squamish for Tuesday, February 7th. And welcome to the Squamish Nation Traditional Territory. Could I have someone move adoption of the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor French, second by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor? Any opposed? I think you're in favor of that. Hey, Councillor Anderson, just we won't start off that sharp. Okay. Thank you very much. The first order of business, we have a delegation proclamation request. And are they physically here or presenting? Oh, hi. Come on up to the podium, and you've got 5 minutes to address council. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. My name is Betty Adamson. I live in Squamish and have so for 31 years. And I'm here to request a proclamation. Mayor Herford and councillors, I would like to request a proclamation for Heritage Week, which takes place across Canada every year. And this year it's February the 20th to the 26th. Each year, the province of BC recognizes the importance of, I forgot something. Stumble over this. Okay. Recognizes the importance of heritage to the province's diverse communities with an official proclamation. We are asking you to consider the influence heritage and history has on our community and to officially recognize the Heritage Week with a proclamation. Heritage Week is important for Squamish Historical Society because it's a chance for us to highlight the value and the importance of the heritage places in the history of our community. This year, the theme of Heritage Week is Always in All Ways. Always in All Ways invites residents in BC to explore heritage in all the ways that excite them. Heritage is a deeply personal thing, consisting of the individual, familial, community, and cultural experiences, both tangible and intangible, that a person encounters in their life. Heritage can be a family recipe, and a historical streetscape, or a craft. It can be formally learned or passed down orally from generation to generation. This Heritage Week encourages everyone to explore all the ways, new and old, of understanding the heritage in their communities, that being our Squamish. We thank you for your consideration in recognizing the importance of our heritage. That concludes my comments, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions or comments at this time for Mrs. Adamson? Oh, go ahead, Councillor French. Sorry.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just wondering if the society has any special events planned or anything worth noting over the week that you could share with us?
No, this basically is to promote it and awareness to the community. Squamish Historical Society is sort of behind a rock and a hard place. We've got all our stuff in storage. We just don't have a place to present. We're working on something. We do have a new website out, and that, of course, will be saturated with what's going on in the Heritage Week itself. And our new website, which is just in the process of being upgraded, and some of it is already. But we do send out pictures on a daily basis of history, and if anyone's interested in going to the site, there are so many areas that we've covered and information that's available. As a matter of fact, you can begin with when the local evolved 10,000 years ago. There's a story there for you to start with, what started all of the landscape around.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I follow the Instagram account, Very interesting, great content, and I often find myself learning new and different things that even as a lifelong resident, I had no idea about the history of Squamish. So just one more question. Like most organizations around town, I'm sure you're looking to grow your volunteer numbers. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
At the moment, our president has moved to North Van, but still is president. And we're in the process of planning a whole new program on how to present Squamish historical to the community and to round up members. But because we haven't got a home and a consistent place to have meetings, we've sort of let that not evolve, but we haven't been able to keep it consistent, which is not good for an organization. So we've sort of shelved that part of it until our plan can come together and we can get permanent and solid grounds. And with hope, there's a group, that advisory group, that's going to bring stuff forward that we will obviously be part of, because I am part of the advisory group, so we're connected. So in the future, we will have something to bring forth.
Great. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Council, any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
I was going to test a motion if that's.
Please
Sounds
do. I
fine.
think we're ready for that.
So I would move that the District of Squamish proclaim February 20th to 26th, 2023 as Heritage Week.
Seconded by Councillor French. Would you like to speak to it or any comments?
Yeah, I think, appreciate and very much understand the importance of understanding the context and the history of the place we live. And hopefully this will help bring some attention to it and maybe result in some new volunteers and people willing to help. And so thank you for your efforts and for coming to present to us and asking us for this proclamation. I'm happy to put it forward. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Hamilton?
Can I just ask for clarification on what the proclamation is? Is it simply a statement, the proclamation of the week, or does it include the proclamation materials from
The motion is that we're considering is just as stated by Councillor Pettingill.
Great, thank you very much.
I'll speak to this briefly. Thank you so much for coming tonight and for all the work
Thank you.
that you do to sort of capture the history of the area. I also enjoy the posts, and it's sometimes disorienting when you see an image and that it looks so different where we are now. Yeah, it's very important work that we have that context as we sit in this room and do our work, and as the rest of the community moves about the town doing theirs. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. I just want to leave you with a thing I just read was, if we let our heritage and history go, you strip it of its DNA.
Thank you for that closing thought. Okay, Council. Next item on the agenda is consideration of unscheduled public attendance. So if anyone has a matter that they would like to be heard by council that's urgent of nature and can't wait, this is a time to bring that forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, which is public hearing. So I have a lot of information to convey here, and it comes with a bit of a script, so bear with me. The public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act requirements to allow the public to present and provide submissions to council respecting the proposed bylaw. The bylaw we're discussing today is District of Squamish Zoning Bylaw, number 2022-2011 Amendment Bylaw for 37707 2nd Avenue, number 2922-2022. Everybody present will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or provide a written submission. We want to ensure that no one is discouraged or prevented from making their views known, whether speaking in favor or against the proposed zoning amendment. Please ensure that your remarks are relevant to the matters contained in the proposed bylaw. Please note that the public hearing is not an opportunity for members of the public to have their questions answered by staff or by council. Any questions or points of clarification can be directed to staff by contacting the planning department. Members of council may ask clarifying questions following presentations. Council is here to listen and will not debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with the public or each other during the public hearing. Please note that this public hearing is being recorded and web streamed live. The recording will be posted on the district website. Media are often present at public hearings, and the public should feel free to advise the media if they don't want their picture taken. Up to and as part of this hearing, the public has had the opportunity to make submissions to council. If any submissions were received, they are available for review and comment and have been included as part of staff's report. Any submissions received after the agenda was published have been added to the electronic agenda and to the electronic public hearing package available on the district website. Any submissions made during the hearing can be reviewed during the hearing by viewing the electronic agenda. Submissions will be uploaded by staff as they are received. We're trying to make this hearing a safe space for everybody to voice their opinion without interference from others. Therefore, I ask that members of the public maintain order and quiet during the hearing. Please do not applaud or interrupt any speech or action of members of council or of any other person addressing council. I'll now ask the planning department to outline what the bylaw is proposing. Over to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Rish Prahalad, planner with the Community Planning Department. Tonight, I will be presenting a rezoning application at 37707 2nd Ave for a public hearing. At the December 6, 2022 regular council meeting, council passed the following motions: that amendment bylaw number 2922 be given first and second reading, and that a public hearing be scheduled for this evening. The subject property is a flat 6,000 square foot lot located in the southern end of 2nd Avenue in the downtown South neighborhood and is an undeveloped parcel. The downtown South neighborhood is intended to maintain an eclectic and funky character and creative building forms. The property is zoned I-1 light industrial, and the OCP land use designation is mixed employment, which is intended for a creative, complementary, and flexible mix of employment generating uses in transitional employment and light industrial areas. Neighboring properties are also zoned I-1 light industrial with a handful of parcels, comprehensive development zones. This application seeks to rezone the subject property from an I-1 light industrial to a comprehensive development zone 104 to facilitate the development of a 3-story commercial and employment building. The CD 104 zone is based off the existing MUD 2 zone found in the downtown South neighborhood. The zone allows for a mix of employment uses. No residential uses are proposed. The development includes 10,000 square feet of employment space spread over 3 floors with a 3,500 square foot outdoor amenity space on the rooftop patio. The following table highlights the proposed zoning metrics. The proposed zone allows for a mix of office and high-tech employment uses. No residential uses are proposed. Restaurant is a permitted use under the neighborhood commercial use. The proposed building height in the CD 104 zone is 15.6 meters, which is consistent with the building heights in the downtown South neighborhood, as the MUD 2 zone allows for a height of 15.6 meters. Council should note that the building meets the maximum FAR of 1.7, and the additional height is to allow for an architectural feature for the rooftop patio. The proposed parking plan is compliant with the District of Squamish zoning bylaw. The parking will be accessed off the lane between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. Parking stalls is broken down into 8 small car stalls, 2 accessible stalls, and 2 motorcycle stalls, which counts as 1 parking stall for a total of 11 stalls. Tandem parking is allowed downtown with the understanding that the tandem spaces will be given to the same employer so that they can work out a parking agreement between its employees. The proponent has committed to providing 2 level 2 chargers that can deliver a minimum of 3.3 kilowatts of power. The applicant has updated their bicycle parking plan by providing a bike room for all the Class A stalls on the first floor, eliminating the need for bicycles to be transported in the elevator. The proponent will also be providing the full cash in lieu fees of $240,000. There are 2 red saplings and 1 non-native deciduous tree in the district's right-of-way. Since these trees are on district property, Public Works will have the final say on whether the trees can be removed or not. It is important to highlight the difficulties that single lot developments such as this one have in meeting the zoning bylaw requirements while remaining financially viable. This project is not proposing any residential uses, which is why the planning department wants to be flexible as possible with the commercial uses. The project was posted to the district's development showcase and a development sign was installed on the property. No request for a public information meeting was received and no public information meeting was held. Public hearing notices have been sent to residents within 100 meters of the property. To date, 2 comments have been received for the project expressing concerns about the parking, drainage, frontage improvements, and the large tree at the front of the property. Staff recommend that the zoning bylaw amendment 2922 be given 3rd reading and that prior to adoption of the zoning bylaw amendment number 2922, the following items be completed. The registration of a flood covenant and the registration of a covenant to ensure all Class A bike parking be located on the first floor and a provision of the rooftop patio. Alternatively, council could recommend that the amendment bylaw 2922 be referred back to staff for further review. Thank you. At this time, I welcome any comments or questions.
Thank you, Council. Any questions on the presentation? Go ahead, Councilor Pettingill.
Yeah, thanks. Just a question. So this is right now I-1, light industrial, which does not permit residential. So the residential in the area would be legal non-conforming?
Currently, there is no residential being proposed, but a lot of the lots, or a lot of the parcels in the area do get rezoned to MUD 2, which do allow for residential uses. However, we have limited those uses.
And sorry, I'm thinking of what's there now. There are residences, as I understand, in that area.
Through the mayor, correct. That is correct. But those parcels that do have residential uses, they've already been rezoned to allow for those residential uses. The I-1 zone doesn't allow for residential.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood. So as I looked at the map and read the report, I got the impression that in those I-1, there's still I-1 properties in that area, and some of them currently have homes, and I'm assuming those are legal non-conforming at the moment because they're residences on I-1 lots. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and just was that I-1 designation a recent thing, or I have a sense that I-1 where it is quite old, and so we're looking to update that according to the OCP. But do we have a sense, like, is that I-1 is a decade old or 20 years old? Do we know?
Through you, Mayor, the I-1 zoning is at least a decade old. I'm not sure it was, off the top of my head, it was before my time. And yes, the official community plan designation is to evolve that to a broader mix of uses.
Through the mayor, so the OCP land use designation for that area is mixed employment, which allows for employment as well as residential uses.
Council, are there other questions before we open the floor up to the public? I have one. Actually a couple. I was wondering about the gas covenant. It wasn't something that was mentioned there, but is that something that's been addressed in the process so far with this site, or I expected to see it and I'm just not hearing it, but it doesn't mean it's not there. Is it elsewhere?
Through the mayor, yeah, so that is correct. Like, there also will need to be a no gas covenant placed on the property.
Okay, and does that need to be part of what we have here, or has staff captured that elsewhere in the zone? It just wasn't one of the stipulations, so I just want to make sure that it's included elsewhere, or understand if we need to add that particular piece.
Through the mayor, we would need to add it.
Okay, thank you. And then the architectural feature for the roof, is it just along the street front, or does it have some screening to the sides of the properties? Like, what does that look like? I can only visualize the one perspective, and I don't recall if they're so on the sides to the adjacent properties. We had some communication around sort of looking down into the adjacent properties, given that it's a zero setback area. And I was just wondering if that continued around, or if that's an open, or if that issue, has it been addressed in the design already, or is it something that we need to consider as we go about our work tonight?
Through the mayor, so that architectural feature wraps around the entire rooftop patio, but that privacy issue will be addressed at the DP stage.
Okay, thank you. And the rooftop deck is an amenity with a restaurant as a use. Is there a risk that that rooftop patio gets used as portion of the restaurant and not as a amenity for the folks working in the building otherwise?
Through the mayor, at this time, we the proposed uses, like, we don't know what's going to be going into the building right now, so that could be a possibility.
So, but the rooftop patio is spoken about as a rooftop amenity space. So I'm just trying to understand, is it amenity space for the folks in the building to have somewhere to go have lunch and, that sort of thing, or is it to be activated as part of one of the businesses in the building and thus have a busy patio on the roof? I think those are two distinctly different uses, and I just want to make sure that have a common understanding of what that is or isn't, or could or could not be. Could you provide some clarity in that regard?
Yes. So the rooftop patio doesn't have any restrictions on it at the moment. And as Rich said, we don't know what the uses are going to be. There may be a restaurant, there may be not. If there is a restaurant, there is a possibility that it could be accommodating guests on the rooftop as well, which is not that uncommon for restaurants.
I think you'll have to ponder that. I don't have a strong feeling either way. I just want to make sure we had a common understanding of what that was. So that's helpful. Okay, Council, any further questions before I open up to? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Greenlaw.
Thanks. Through the chair, I just wanted to make sure I'm reading it all correctly. My understanding is that there will be no setback from the front of the lot, and therefore no sidewalk.
Through the mayor, so currently there is, in the bylaw, there is a 0 meter front setback, but the building is recessed several meters and there will be a sidewalk provided.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Seeing no further questions, I'll now ask the applicant or their representative to comment on the proposed zoning, after which anyone else will be given an opportunity to speak or make their submission. I have a list of names here, and I will call those individuals to the podium first. After these speakers, I will call on any other interested parties to speak, and then you simply need to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. For all speakers, please approach the podium and start your remarks by clearly stating your name and neighborhood. Please note that speakers will be given up to 5 minutes to address council in order that everyone has an opportunity to speak to council. Details to participate via telephone or WebEx are displayed on the screen for those who have logged in from your computer or are watching the live stream of the meeting. Instructions are also included on the district's website. To get on the speakers list, if you are on the telephone, please raise your hand by dialing *3 or via WebEx on computer or cell phone app by opening the participant panel and by clicking on the hand icon. Please note there will be a moderator who will communicate with speakers. When it's your turn to speak, you will receive a voice prompt via telephone or a dialog box via WebEx. Please remember to put your hand down after you have finished speaking, *3 on the telephone or by clicking on the hand icon via WebEx. If you've already spoken and then wish to speak again to provide more or new comments, please raise your hand again or add your name to the speakers list. Once I've indicated that speakers will be offered additional speaking opportunities. So with that, is there anyone from, would the proponent like to address this in any way? Oh, go ahead. Yep. Come on up. You can approach the podium and start with your name and neighborhood, and you have 5 minutes to address council.
Neighborhood is Garibaldi Highlands. I'm the architect on the project with Hunter Office. Thank you for your time. I've been involved in small lot development downtown Squamish for the past 10 years, trying to advocate for the importance. It was great to hear the speech and request for heritage and a recognition of that, because I think the small lots in Squamish are a part of that. The urban grain of Cleveland especially and downtown South are really unique. We have individual landowners, we have 25 and 50-foot lots for the most part. I counted upwards of 60 individual lots in downtown South. 44 of those are 50 feet or less. So trying to support and facilitate redevelopment in downtown South, I think, is incredibly important. I think the OCP that got revamped, was that 4 years ago, Jonas, or 3? Really speaks to what our community wants to see in this neighborhood, which is maintaining the kind of quirkiness, artistic, vibrancy, development that supports arts, culture, and mixed use. So the frustration I've had through this process is we've worked with planning, who I have a good relationship with, who voiced their concerns about our first proposal, which was for smaller housing units that we were not even close to being able to accommodate the amount of parking for. And we pivoted to 100% commercial because at the time, the priority permitting process supported 100% commercial, 100% rental, or a net zero project. So we moved forward with this proposal. A year and a half later, we are still talking about issues that I think are going to be addressed in development permit. What we have presented for this project, I think, is really unique to downtown Squamish. It's 100% employment. I do not know of any other project that is willing to take the risk of a development of this scale without condos involved. Our client is a big proponent of active transportation, of maintaining this building for their family well into the future. So rental for, I think, a variety of uses. So a lot of the questions coming out about what uses are going to be allowed on the lot. I hope there's going to be dozens of different tenants throughout the lifetime of this building, which should be well over 100 years. Not let's design this and covenant, one after the other for one use or the next. We have to allow flexibility, and that's the most sustainable thing I think you as council members can do, is allow and encourage diversity, flexibility, and support these small lots because they are insanely difficult financially to develop. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to our speakers list, and we have Spencer Fitchin. You're top of the list. Come on up, and you will have 5 minutes to address council. The floor is yours.
Well, I don't need that. Spencer Fitchin, Garibaldi Highlands is my area. I like the idea, the whole concept of, it was originally fairly heavy industrial. Going to mixed employment, I think, is a great idea for a building. Not having the need for residential within the building, I think, is good. The only thing that leaves me a little bit cautious about the proposal is there's very little that you can't do under the proposed CD zone. It allows for manufacturing, it allows for restaurants, it allows for cinemas and civics and restaurants, and virtually anything that you want to do is proposed to be allowed. And I'm not sure I'm entirely comfortable with that. Having a zoning proposal or a zoning type that is maybe a little bit narrower in scope and that actually is more attuned to the neighborhood. I don't think this quite covers it. This allows light industrial. This allows, all sorts of things that I just think it's a little too broad. And that would be my concern, beyond the parking, which I think is light. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on our list, we have, Caroline Miller. And following Caroline, we'll do a scan to see if we have anyone online.
My name's Caroline Miller, and my neighborhood is downtown South, and I am the neighbor of 37707. I'm just going to read a letter that I wrote to the council earlier in the month. To Mayor Hereford, Squamish Council, Vrish Prahoud, Squamish Town Planner, and the owner and developer of lot 37707. My name is Caroline Miller. I'm the owner of the neighboring residential house in lot 37701, 2nd Avenue. My family has resided at this address since 2016. I've been a Squamish resident for 17 years and have had my working studio on the same 2nd Avenue block for the past 16 years. This is a letter in regards to the neighboring 37707 2nd Avenue development project. Firstly, I'd like to speak to the general downtown plan and how this neighborhood fits within the plan. Secondly, I have some specific requests regarding the development on the neighboring lot as it will directly affect my home and family. I understand that this is a commercial building, which is what the community needs. Within that, I'd like to clarify and understand the types of businesses that are allowed, along with the projected number of clients and the traffic it will see. This directly relates to concerns such as parking, pedestrian, and bike-friendly access. In consideration to the District of Squamish's downtown plan, this block of 2nd Avenue is a unique and eclectic section of Squamish that is habited with creative businesses and artist studios. And many people use this area in an urban park-like manner, accessing the estuary trails or walking their pets. It would be prudential and within the best interests of current residents, future residents, and local tourists alike for the district to encourage and preserve this unique environment for the future of arts and culture within Squamish. It's a major attraction to both locals and tourists to have a curated, colorful, and artistic green area of town which showcases local arts and culture. An example of such a destination would be like Granville Island. I understand that the mandate for downtown Squamish is higher density. With this in mind, along with careful consideration to details such as architecture and intelligent use of materials which consider the surrounding environment, the essence of the neighborhood can be preserved. A difference can be made through aesthetics and public amenities like sidewalks, boulevards, public green spaces, landscaping, public artwork, sufficient vehicle parking, pedestrian traffic, and ample covered bike parking. Urban areas that support low carbon impact and creative businesses are what make a vibrant and dynamic community. If the area exists, it will inspire like-minded people to populate and do business within the neighborhood. Directly addressing the neighboring development, as the neighboring property owner, this project will be directly be affecting my family home. These concerns must be addressed before the project commences. I understand that this is a commercial building. However, I am unclear of what this entails, what type of businesses within the zoning, for example, a restaurant, how many clients will be visiting. Parking. I realize that the plan is for tandem parking. However, I question the functionality of this design, considering 6 of the spaces are for small vehicles, and many people drive trucks and large vehicles in Squamish. Has there been any studies on the realities of this style of parking? Considering this, what is the projected use of the building? Is this the client parking as well? Within the development design, the loading bay is at the rear. Is there enough space at the back to back in and out? There is no available street parking on 2nd Avenue or in the alley. The street fills up at peak periods. Accessible, ample covered bike parking should not be overlooked and included in the design. An elevator or upper floor bike parking is a non-user friendly option and an unreasonable solution. In regards to building access, will there be an internal public passageway through the building for people to access the front businesses from the parking on the rear? Drainage. With the 3-story concrete wall, I want to ensure that my property and buildings are not affected by water runoff. Any surface water running off the project needs to be managed by the project. The ditch out front is the major water collector. It feels to overflowing when there's heavy rainfall, snowfall, and large tides in the winter months. The drainage needs.
You've got 30 seconds. Keep.
Okay. Frontage improvements, as well, and landscaping contribution. The rooftop deck. I request that there's barriers on the sides, screens, or setback. And that's about it. And the rest, I think, is in the second stage.
Thank you. You were. We'll come after we go through everyone that hasn't spoken. If you feel that you'd like to that you got pinched at the end too much, you're welcome to come back up. And
I think the rest of the points come in the development part of the
okay
of the.
Thank you very much for your submission. I see your hand. I'm going to go to the folks online just to see if we have anyone there, and then we'll go to the audience in chambers.
There's no one online, Mayor Herford.
Thank you. And I believe it was Chris Hunter. You spoke already on the list. Just make sure that we covered that already. Okay. Yeah. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Tim Landrill, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors. I live at 37759 2nd Avenue and have lived there for almost 20 years. Obviously, we've seen a lot of change down in this part of the neighborhood, and there's development is coming, and a lot of them I'm for it, but there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. And I feel this particular development, there's a lot of questions that still need to be addressed. At least once a week where I live, I have to walk over to the cidery and find the person who's parked in front of my driveway. It's a clearly marked driveway, but it happens at least once a week where somebody will just park their car. But because when you look down the street, there's absolutely no parking available. So my concerns for the development at 37707 is parking related. The street in itself has ditches on both sides that aren't covered. So all the parking on the street is encroaching on the driving area, and it's also a dead end. So for instance, if you had to drive a semi-truck to drop something off at the building, there's no way to turn it around, or it's almost near impossible when it's busy to turn a car around. So I feel that the parking spaces in lieu of like even 3 would be a stretch. There is absolutely no extra parking at that end of the street. It's a dead end. That particular development there's one Caroline's house, and then it's a dead end. So to propose, I believe it's 9 spaces in lieu of, like, I don't know where you would put the cars. And I think in the design as it is right now won't satisfy this. You know what I mean? I don't know what you would do if they would have to put more underground parking, but right now there's just absolutely no extra parking on that street. And as I say, I'm living in the middle of it. I see it when the dispensary was down there, and if there's a big night on the cidery, and when the martial arts gym is active, it's completely like people just dump their car everywhere. And so I think this is something that needs to be addressed. I mean, I would look to see if there's an actual study that's been done that counts the cars, you know, so that you guys have some real concrete numbers to look at. Because if you don't go down there, you know, you don't see it. But if you walk down there on a Saturday at like 6 p.m. or just stroll down there, you'll see like there's ditches on both sides. The amenities were put in 80 years ago, you know, like so, and it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. So, you know, I'm definitely for development. I work in construction, but I think in this current design that is just, it's not going to work. It needs some tweaking to prevent mayhem on the street with parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, before we go too much further into the speakers list, would anyone like to ask any questions that were sort of triggered by what they've heard so far? Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor. So I've heard the word restaurant a number of times tonight, and I'm looking to staff for some clarification on whether or not there is even the possibility of a restaurant existing in this this building. The permitted uses in the list are alcoholic beverage manufacturing, artisan, arts and culture, business and professional major, business and professional minor, business service establishment, cinema civic, electric vehicle charging station, high technology, light industrial, neighborhood commercial, personal service establishments, research and development, small scale manufacturing, and then accessory uses, including accessory retail sales. In that list, nothing indicates to me a restaurant would be permitted here. So staff, could you clarify, can a restaurant be located in this building under the zoning?
Through the mayor, in the zoning bylaw for neighborhood commercial, if you look at the definition, it includes restaurants as one of the uses.
Thank you.
Councillor Stoner.
Thank you. Through the chair, just a question on parking. It is my understanding that the proposal as it is meets our current parking standards. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, that is correct.
And then can staff provide a brief update on the broader parking utilization study that we're doing downtown and when we might see that? Just to try and give some context as to like where these pinch parts are being seen across downtown. So I'm just curious where that work is at and where we might see that come forward to council.
Through you, Mayor. So that work is ongoing. It's a current project. Unfortunately, the staff member is not here today. Mr. Mero is working on that project, but it is something that we are keenly aware. And parking is not an issue. You know, downtown parking is not something that we will be able to address on individual properties when it comes to commercial uses, particularly on small lots, because it just doesn't make development viable in those cases. So that is something that's going to have to be part of district's overall parking priorities. Downtown is solving this issue holistically.
Yes, Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, thanks. So as I read the current I-1 zoning, which this lot already has, you can do a restaurant up to 50 seats today with no rezoning. The sort of restaurant under neighborhood commercial that you're speaking to, does that have a seat limit, or is it basically the same thing, or could it allow for a much larger restaurant than what's permitted today?
Through you, Mayor, there would be no like a seat limit or personal limit on the restaurant.
Do you have a follow-up? Yep, go ahead.
So sorry, if this is coming in under neighborhood commercial, then neighborhood commercial doesn't sort of imply that sort of it's something scaled to the neighborhood?
For the Mayor, that's correct. It's fairly open. It's any services that are needed to service a neighborhood, like retail, personal service establishments, restaurants. We haven't seen an issue yet where, the uses under that neighborhood commercial umbrella have exceeded the neighborhood capacity. So there just hasn't been a rationale to kind of rein it in.
Okay, seeing no other hands at the council table, I'll take a stab at a couple questions here. There's along the frontage, we've heard from some of the speakers around the challenges that the ditches cause for parking. At the front of the building, the architectural drawings, it says driveway. And I was just curious how that fits into, or does it fit into any parking calculations? Is that a loading zone? Does it increase the parking efficiency in the area? It's not very well. I didn't see, if it is articulated extremely well somewhere, I didn't see it. Could you speak to the frontage of the building and just how that interacts with the street, and if it represents any change from what's there currently?
Through you, Mayor. Currently, there is a WNRF proposal for Second Avenue, but right now those are kind of preliminary discussions. So right now, engineering is asking for cash in lieu for sidewalk improvements.
No, I think maybe I wasn't clear with my question. When I look at the architectural drawing, the front of the building, it says driveway, but all the parking's in the back that's accounted for. I'm just curious what that piece is at the front, and is it a change from what's there now, what's being proposed, or is it what's there now is what's staying there, and then the development happens back? I'm just trying to understand the impact to the parking on the street is where I'm trying to get to, but it just says driveway at the front and all the parking's at the back. So
through the mayor, there's currently an existing driveway in the front, but that won't be there once the development is approved through the DP stage.
they'll be covering the ditch to provide street parking, or there'll be a ditch and you'll have to access the edge. Like, sorry, that piece I just don't quite get, or when will we, and how that'll be addressed at the DP phase, if that's the appropriate spot for it.
For you, Mayor, that is correct. It's DP level design. One part of it is engineering department is quite busy, and we try to sort of, at this stage, it's all, what does the land use make sense in this location? And then once we get to that answer, yes, it is, then engineering gets much more involved, and the applicants are able to put more money into design the frontage improvements.
Okay, I think there's could be some opportunity there to have a net improvement of how the street functions to be addressed at the DP stage. So I'll just sort of lob that out there, and that can be a future point. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, I'll go back to our gallery. Is there anyone that hasn't spoken that would like to speak? And then I'll go for the second round. I see some hands that have already spoken. That's fine. Yes. Please approach the podium and state your name and your neighborhood. You have 5 minutes to address council.
Hi there, my name's Beverly Hanson. I live at the end of 2nd Avenue. Dear members of council, thank you for this opportunity. I have a comment regarding this rezoning, and it is about the proposal to significantly reduce the parking requirement for the proposed development. My neighbors and I were surprised to read this news. The parking on the south end of 2nd Avenue is already a nightmare. We simply do not have the capacity for more street parking. Why? It was built as a quiet residential street 80 or 90 years ago when very few people in Squamish had cars. Times are far different now, but no road upgrades have taken place. Much of the street still has open ditches on both sides. We've talked about that. There's no curb and gutter. There are no sidewalks. It's inadequate street lighting. We've had to actually come to the district to try and get some street lighting because it's very dangerous with the gym that is in our neighborhood there with all the children coming and going. It's very dangerous there sometimes. It is a dead-end street with no cul-de-sac, and there is no place to turn around. Cars and pickup trucks are parked on the street. They stick out onto the traveled portion of road. Both the martial arts school and the cidery attract a large number of patrons who can't find parking spaces, so many do try to do so on private property or sometimes just in the middle of the street. So it's a nightmare, council, and you have to be there to believe it sometimes. And allowing this enterprise to drastically reduce the parking will just invite mayhem. It's really short-sighted and it won't work. And I ask you to remove that parking exemption. I do have some photos of the ditches, and this is just a quiet morning. And you can already see there's loads of cars here already, exposed ditches, cars parked, you know, on the side.
If you could pass those to
Yeah.
Terry's got her hand out, and she'll get them to us, and they'll be added to the record as a submission as well. So thank you for that. A visual aid is always helpful. So was there anyone before you run away, Terry, to do that? Is there any? I just wanted to check that if we had anyone online. No one online. So is there anyone that hasn't spoken yet that would like to speak? And then I'll go back to the folks that have spoken and would like to add to their comments. Oh, yes, sir. Approach the podium and state your name and neighborhood, and you have 5 minutes to address council.
Hello, my name is William Wallace, and I live or occupy or whatever, have a lot directly behind the space. So that would, of course, be blocking my view of the chief. And I have no problems with that. I don't mind the development at all. I actually applaud the commercial use of the space because the problem is it's a mixed use area. An artist, I want to try and build things there. If I ever get my building permit approved, please, for God's sakes, maybe look at that. But anyway, there's a real problem with the parking, which is a real issue. I can see it from my space. They're constantly putting out cones and trying to like save their parking spaces. And I love the martial arts doing their key eyes and working out there, but like just that place alone just dominates the parking. Unfortunately, it's not only is it a dead end street, but the alleyway on the other side, where the parking officially isn't behind, is also a dead end alley, one end street. It's just one lane, and it's like so many times I've tried like been loading things in and out, trying to just park my trailer there, and it's like next to impossible, the van and the trailer to back it up, and people are coming and going. That's long before this proposal, everything has to go to that back alleyway now. Like supposedly I'm supposed to load, if I ever get my building approved, I'm supposed to load in through the back alleyway and have to have a ludicrously angled ramp to get up to my huge foundation that you forced me to build. Anyway, I digress. The main thing is that I like this, I like the building, I like the looks of it. I have some concerns about the use of the restaurant on the roof. That seems kind of bizarre. I mean, obviously a coffee shop, a record shop, you know, all different sort of artisan uses, even a recording studio, anything that makes noise or people are doing creative, productive things, that would be great. I'm a little concerned that it'd be like an auto repair shop or something more industrial. Wouldn't really quite work because there is a lot of residential packed around there. And the restaurant on top, that does not sound good at all. They could have parties like 3 times a week, but a restaurant would be like nonstop. There's no noise barrier on the roof, whereas if it was in one of the other floors, you wouldn't hear the conversations or anything like that. Anyway, so yeah, a little bit concerned about the wide use of I don't know what light industrial is, but the wide use of uses there. And I don't know what, I love that it's commercial, but there's no way you're going to get the parking in there. It's like with 2 dead end streets that are already overflowed. I don't know how to make that work. I don't have other than perhaps actually covering over all the open drainage ditches and actually putting in sidewalks in the neighborhood. You could take the hundreds of thousands of dollars you've taken from me and just put it into fixing the sidewalks and maybe put in some parking, you know, each individual space they could choose, like to maybe have angled parking or just regular park. Like if it got, you could actually pack in a little bit more parking there if you actually fixed up the lighting and the open drainage ditches in downtown Squamish. But anyway, but I have no problems with the project at all. I applaud it. I'm sorry to bring up the parking issue, but I had to reinforce what my neighbors are saying because it really is an issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that hasn't addressed council yet that would like to speak to this issue? Yes, sir. Come on up. You have 5 minutes. If you choose to use them, that's up to you.
Thank you, Mayor. No, just to point out that what you were talking about with the frontage of the building.
Sorry. Name and neighborhood, and then continue on.
Second Avenue. Just to point out what you were talking about with the frontage of the building. By putting an entrance out there, we've just lost 2 or 3 more spaces because we're parking along. There's a vacant lot there currently, although there is a dirt entrance to the gate. Nobody goes in there very much, so we are currently parking along there. The martial arts studio, when it opened, they don't even have parking for staff, never mind the people that show up. And there are sometimes small buses that pull in with children. They're running around in the dark to get to their parents after. It's crazy. I can hardly get home sometimes because the road is so narrow in my van. And then I get to my driveway and it's already full of people. I have to leave the van, walk around to different places and say, who's in my driveway? And then they get mad at me and say, well, where am I supposed to park? It's very frustrating. Please don't take any more parking away. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'll ask again if there's anyone that hasn't spoken to this that would like to speak. And before we go back to the folks who have spoken already, I'll just check in with council. Any questions triggered from what we've heard here so far? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Yes, Mayor Herford, staff have mentioned that there is a concept or a proposal for a Woonorf at some point at this part of 2nd Avenue. I wonder if there might be some clarification as to in what connection that proposal would be coming forward. What is the status of that project, please, for this precinct?
Through the mayor, that proposal is still in the very early stages. It probably won't be coming to council for a few months here.
And if I could ask further, who would be the sponsor of this? This is a district active transportation planning initiative, not in connection with any particular development then?
Through the mayor, that is correct.
Councillor Pettingill?
I'm just wondering if staff could clarify, just because it's been brought up in the questions about parking, what exactly a Woonorf generally entails. I don't want to get into specifics of some proposal we haven't seen, but when you say Woonorf, what in general are you speaking about?
I can only speak to the definition. So a Woonorf is a living street where both pedestrians and cars are kind of one and the same. They both take up the space, and it's a slow down street so that pedestrians feel safe walking up and down the street with cars going up and down as well.
Okay. Any other questions, council, before we go back to those that have spoken already? Okay, is there anyone that, seeing no new speakers, I'll happily circle back to anyone that would like to submit some new information that's already spoken. But that's the key. We did I see a hand or 2 hands here? We'll go in the same order that we did previously, just for consistency. And it's Caroline Miller. Oh, sorry.
Okay. I'm just going to list off a couple of the things that I didn't get to mention last time I was talking. So in regards to the frontage improvements, currently there is a sidewalk and then the ditch. I'm not interested in seeing the ditches and the sidewalk paved over to provide extra angle parking for the development, since they're choosing to buy out the sufficient amount of parking. I don't want to be the overflow parking lot for them. It's not really the look that it's not really fair. As far as also, it's in the second stage probably, but as far as the landscaping contribution, it's not apparent. I don't know if everything is up on the deck, but at this point, it's just one completely stark concrete block building. The rooftop deck, I don't think a restaurant is appropriate for the roof for noise, and also regardless of the business that's up there, I request that an overlook or a barrier or a setback be put so that because there's 0 setbacks between the building and my property line, I'm not interested in people leaning over and it's quite close to the house as well. As well, in speaking to the on the front, they mentioned at the beginning there's a large deciduous tree and it's on the district property and it borders my lot and 37707. That tree, I request that it remains. It's a landmark on the street. It's a beautiful deciduous tree. Lots of neighbors and passerbyers enjoy it. And I request that it remains as it will only embellish the starkness of the proposed concrete block building. That's it.
Thank you very much. I said we'd attempt to go in the order that we did, but Mr. Fitchin, you started us off, but
Well, I'll be even briefer.
okay.
It's just an elaboration. When I read the proposed bylaw, it lays out a bunch of uses, but a bunch of the other uses that we think about are actually buried in the definitions of the words that are used in the bylaw itself. Light industrial, for example. Light industrial, automotive oriented commercial, building supply outlet, fitness center, heavy equipment sales, industrial fuel installation, light industrial, using the term light industrial within the definition of light industrial is interesting. Motor vehicle repair shop, service shop, nursery, restaurant, trade contractor facilities, including logging contractors, and storage facilities, accessory uses, and a caretaker dwelling. These are all buried in another definition. So these would all be permitted uses under this proposal. Again, I'm thinking that's possibly a bit broad.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner?
I'm just wondering if I can seek clarification from the speaker on where that definition that you're reading from came from, because it's different than what I have in my zoning bylaw.
Sorry, you'll have to come to the mic. I know it's a bit awkward, but
I'm looking at section 33 of the OCP in light industrial, I1. And what it basically, the intent of this zone is to provide for light industrial use. And
okay,
if within the
I think
CD,
hold on. I think just clarifying where you're coming from is what we needed there, and I think we've got enough for our staff to chime in on this.
okay, so light industrial. Okay.
Yeah, let's just check in. Could you add some clarity, please?
Yes. So that is section 33 of the zoning bylaw is light industrial zone, I1, which is the existing zoning on the property. It's not what the applicants are applying for.
So the definition of light industrial in the use of the new zone, could you read that definition? I think I understand where we are. I just want to make sure that we all do.
Okay. Light industrial means a use providing for processing, fabricating, assembling, leasing, warehousing, transporting, distributing, wholesaling, testing, servicing, or repairing of goods or materials, where the primary activity of such use is carried out within an exterior to a building, within or exterior to the building, which may be serviced with a railway spur, includes cannabis production, indoor food production, and artisan uses. So it's a fairly flexible use, and that's the case across any parcel that allows light industrial use in the district.
Thank you. I can see the sort of the clash of a zone that's called light industrial and the light industrial use, which is separate. Okay, thank you for that clarity. And Anyone else? I think, Tim, did you want to speak? Yep. Come on up.
To bring up one point, earlier on in the submissions, they mentioned that parking satisfied requirements. And I understand what that means in theory, but if that means we can't accommodate the existing parking, so we're going to pay in lieu of, I think that can work in certain situations. But unless you're planning on building a parking lot down at the end of the street, the cash in lieu of here is just going to create a major problem. And I think you should really think about that for this area, that the in lieu of situation and the finite space for parking this is not a situation where, and as I say, unless you're planning on building a raised lot at the end of the street, this is not going to help in this area. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in chambers that would like to speak to this, that either has or hasn't spoken yet? We're in that phase. And is there anyone online? Just checking. Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, Chris Hunter again, Garibaldi Highlands. Just a brief comment on parking. I mean, it comes up on every project, rather big projects, 6, 8 stories in the C4 zoning or these small lots. And I think the reality is the challenge with parking in downtown Squamish cannot be solved one parcel at a time. It has to be a neighborhood solution. And I think our client came into this with really honest intentions. As a landowner with a vacant lot, wanting to facilitate some use out of their property with good intention, they look to the planning and building and engineering departments for guidance, and they put together a proposal with professionals that complies with the parking bylaw. So I think to Tim's point, as a landowner, you have to be able to work within guidelines, rules, and bylaws. And the cash in lieu is not a gesture as a scapegoat. We physically cannot fit more parking stalls than we could on this property. And the cash in lieu is meant to go towards the district to then do something as a whole to downtown, whether that's active transportation or parkade. That's a bigger discussion. And as far as uses, I just really encourage everyone to think about how quickly uses change. Look in the past 3 years, what the workforce or employment or how we use commercial space has changed in 3 years. In the time this proposal has been in, it's been flipped on its head. So if we go in to develop a parcel with an intended use, albeit restaurant, dental medical office, employment, that could totally change in 5 years. And that's the good thing about this neighborhood. It's eclectic, it changes. Look at, great dense cities like Tokyo or small towns like Boise or Hood River. They're eclectic, they're gritty, they have lots of different uses next to each other. And I think that's what this neighborhood is trying to achieve as it redevelops. There will be challenges with that, though. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay. Council, do you have, Councillor Pettingill, go ahead.
Yeah, and coming back to my first question, some of the comments we've heard, I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is this has been an I-1 area for quite a while. There are residential properties, but they're non-conforming. And so we've heard concerns about the impacts of this change in zoning on residences, but the actual zoning for all those places is I-1. And so I'm just wondering if there's sort of a best practice or normal practice in terms of how a council sort of do you evaluate against how, the existing properties, how they're being used now, or the existing zoning, which has been in place a long time? So, for example, a restaurant's allowed now, all sorts of light industrial is allowed now in that whole area. So do I sort of evaluate this new proposal in that context, or do I think more about, well, I don't care what the existing zoning is, there's homes there and I have to evaluate it in terms of those existing homes? And does it matter how long that existing I-1 zoning has been there or not in my deliberations?
Through you, Mayor, from a staff perspective, we always evaluate applications. Our guiding document is the official community plan, because that tells us where this neighborhood is going in the next 20, 40, 60 years. we have to bear in mind what's happening in the neighborhood today and how much alignment with the future state can the neighborhood handle today. Lots of neighborhoods in Squamish have issues, and they're growth issues, and they're going to have to be solved, I think, by the district to a large extent, especially in these small lot situations. Parking is one, and we know it's an issue in this area, and we're going to have to solve it. There's different ways to solve it, and probably a combination is going to be needed. It's not just parking provision somewhere; it's probably also parking regulation on street, because it's an issue already. But for us, it's the official community plan, and kind of gauging how much capacity there is to accept the change.
Okay. Is that a hand? Okay. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Herford. So through the chair, I'd like to just have an idea of how much parking is being made available on this lot compared to parking that's available in other lots in the neighborhood. Is there more parking going? I see, 10 spots available on this lot. Is that typically more or less parking than is available on the surrounding lots?
Through you, Mayor. I would think because the neighborhood has small lots, and just having visited the neighborhood, generally it's probably slightly more than what the typical developments that are there now providing, but it's not significantly more. Yeah.
Thank you. Seeing other hands of council, is there anyone either online saying no or in chambers that would like to provide additional submission? Okay, seeing none, I have a bit of a script to read at the end of this as well. Oh, I'm on it. Okay. If there are no further speakers, I would ask council if there's any further information that the planning department might provide in response to any comments or questions raised by members of the public. We cover that. Now that I've heard from everyone on the speakers list, it is a requirement that I ask 3 times if there is anyone else who wishes to speak before we can close the public hearing. For the first time, is there anyone else that wants to speak or make a submission? For a second time, is there anyone that wants to speak or make a submission? For a third and final time, is there anyone else who wants to speak or make a submission? Please note, council members are not permitted to receive any further submissions or hear either a proponent or an opponent to the application once the public hearing has been concluded. This means we can't speak to you out in the community or receive emails or phone calls on any of the bylaws until a decision on the bylaws has been made. Any and all communication from this point must be channeled to staff. If there are no further speakers, I declare the hearing closed. Thank you very much for your submissions. And with that, that concludes item 5 on our list, which is the public hearing. Council, I think we'll go to, let's do the consent agenda, and then, so consent agenda, is there anything anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none, could someone move consent agenda? Moved by Councillor French, second by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have actually moving into our bylaw readings for 3rd Avenue. So maybe this would be a good time to take a quick break, council, and we'll come back to, we'll get staff get ready to present to us. So we'll recess for let's make it 10 minutes, and we'll come back at 7:30. Thank you. And we're back from recess. Moving on now to item 9, bylaws. Section A1 is District of Squamish zoning bylaw, number 2200-2011 amendment bylaw for 38029 and 38045 Third Avenue. And are you presenting jointly with the next item? It's kind of two items on our list. So for both sides of the street. Okay, so that's also for 38028 to 38062 Third Avenue. I will turn it over to staff. If you could introduce yourself and the topic. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jessie Abraham, and I'm a planning consultant presenting on behalf of the Community Planning Department. Today, I'll be presenting two rezoning applications for consideration of second reading. The first application is for 38029 to 38045 Third Avenue and includes 3 lots on the west side of the block. The second application is for 38028 to 38062 Third Avenue and consists of 5 lots on the east side of the block, directly opposite from the 3-lot rezoning. Both applications are seeking to rezone from residential 2 to a comprehensive development zoning. So as mentioned, the west side rezoning, you can see here, 3 lots on the west side, 5 lots on the east side of Third Avenue block. Both sites are outlined on the aerial photo. So the current zoning of all of the lots is RS2, except for 1 lot, which is zoned C4. The OCP land use designation for all the subject properties is Downtown Commercial Center, which applies to the central business area of downtown and is meant to be the primary commercial area for Squamish. The sites also fall within the development permit areas 3 for forming character and 5 for commercial center. On September 20th, Council gave first reading to the proposed bylaw amendments and provided the following comments summarized here and directed staff to work with the applicant to resolve comments provided by Council prior to consideration of second reading. Key Council suggestions were to break up the massing of the eastern building, incorporate covered outdoor amenity spaces on both rooftops, and activate mid-block cut-throughs at each project. I'll now run through the proposals and the changes that have been made to each following the September 20th Council meeting. So let's look at the west side first. Proposes a 6-story mixed commercial residential building with commercial space at grade, a 2nd level parkade, and 4 stories of residential above. 20% employment space is proposed, including a mid-block cut-through from 3rd Avenue to the lane and 45 residential units. The proposed floor area ratio is 2.92. The parking meets the zoning bylaw requirements with 11 commercial spaces proposed to be bought out via the cash in lieu provision. No changes have been made to number of units, gross floor area, or parking spaces since first reading. The following changes have been made to the west side proposal since receiving council feedback at first reading. The first is in response to a lack of covered outdoor amenity space at the rooftop. The applicant proposes a roof overhang at the roof staircase entryway to provide an area to shelter. The applicant worked with staff to explore the idea of a covered shelter. However, due to the building code requirements, a freestanding covered shelter was not feasible as it would trigger non-combustible structural building standards. Staff support the proposed 6-foot overhang design as seen in attachment 4 of the report. In response to activation of mid-block connections, the applicant proposes doors, glazing, and areas for patio seating at mid-block connections. And in addition, the proposed bylaw now includes an attached site plan identifying setbacks, the purpose of which is to secure the stepping back of the massing. Looking at the east side application proposes a similar but larger 6-story mixed commercial residential building that contains commercial floor area on the 1st story, parking on the 2nd story, and 4 stories of residential above. 20% employment space is proposed and 78 residential units. The proposed floor area ratio is 2.96. The parking meets the zoning bylaw requirements with 12 commercial spaces proposed to be bought out via the cash in lieu provision. Same with this proposal, no changes have been made to number of units, gross floor area, or parking spaces since first reading. But the following changes have been made since receiving council feedback. So in response to council's concern regarding the overall size of the building, the applicant has revised the design to break up the building massing and create more variation across building elevations. The upper stories now include a distinct break in the middle of the building in which the balcony depths have been reduced and decorative fin walls step back. More windows are now included as well. The ground floor has more variation in the street level design, which is now broken up into 3 distinct areas: the southern storefront design, the residential lobby, differentiated with the wood cladding, and the northern storefront design that wraps into the mid-block cut-through. Attachment 6 of the report has comparative renderings and elevations of how the design has evolved from the rezoning application, first reading, and second reading. Staff also want to highlight that the building design, including materials and colors, will be further refined through the development permit review process, including review by the district's advisory design panel. Similar to the west side, this east proposal design includes an activated mid-block connection, including doors, glazing, and areas for patio seating. In response to a lack of covered outdoor amenity space at the rooftop and similar to the west side, the applicant proposes a roof overhang at entryway to provide an area to shelter. Staff support the proposed 6-foot overhang design. And lastly, the proposed bylaw now includes an attached site plan identifying setbacks, the purpose of which is to secure the stepping back of the building massing. So these rezoning applications trigger the district's CAC policy. The West Side application's proposed CAC is summarized here and is unchanged from first reading. The applicant is proposing an increased critical amenities cash in lieu rate from the policy target of $15 up to $21 per square foot of a new for sale residential GFA gross floor area. The applicant is also proposing to construct extended frontage improvements, including stormwater management and paving at the rear lane behind the development up to Winnipeg Street, and doing full sidewalk and bike lane improvements in front of the Women's Center to the south to connect with the Lawrence building frontage. For the east side application, the applicant is proposing that 5% of the new for sale residential GFA be provided as fee simple residential floor area to be given to a local nonprofit housing provider to own and operate based on a 2.96 floor area ratio. The maximum residential floor area that would be donated is 3,600 square feet. And that is unchanged from first reading. There is one change to the extended frontage improvements since first reading, and that is the paving of lane to Winnipeg Street and frontage from the development to Winnipeg Street has been revised to include stormwater installation in addition to paving of the lane, and no longer includes 3rd Avenue frontage improvements from development to Winnipeg Street. The applicant has also committed to entire west and east side buildings to be powered by electricity, including the commercial spaces as well as the residential portions. These commitments and CAC contributions will be secured through a land development agreement. The developer will be required to enter into the agreement prior to adoption of the bylaw. Staff recommend that the District of Squamish Zoning Bylaw 2200-2011, Amendment Bylaw 2879, as well as Amendment Bylaw 2884 both be given second reading, that a land development agreement is secured prior to adoption, and that a public hearing is scheduled for March 7th at 6 p.m. as per the resolutions written here. But I do want to note that we are proposing an amendment of the public hearing. In the report, it states March 28th. We'd like to change to March 7th. So that should be amended. And that concludes my presentation for tonight. So thank you. I'll pass it back to the chair for questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Council, questions? Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor. So I'm curious to know, with this redesign, does staff know if the overall number of units has been reduced?
The number of units is the same as what was presented at first reading to council.
Okay, and how about the number of parking spaces? Has that changed between first and second reading?
No change to parking spaces.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Council? Any other questions? Okay. Councillor Stoner, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Appreciate the changes that have been made since first reading. I was one of the councillors that brought up concerns around the massing of the east building in particular, and part of the context of my comments at that time extend beyond this particular project. And it was a point to staff about how we consider the evolution of the downtown commercial land use designation in the OCP, and the extension of 3rd Avenue, which is currently all RS2. And so here we kind of have gone through an iteration of this being a C4 and now a comprehensive development zone, but we're still kind of seeing that 6-story massing along 3rd, and we risk seeing that even further out if we kind of envision where this might go. And so I'm just curious if staff can speak a little bit to what process do we might envision taking on ourselves as the downtown area develops in this way.
Through you, Mayor, we are planning to look at the C4 zone this year. We follow the official community plan, which has specific land uses for downtown. And we could model whatever happens with the C4 zone to see if we need to expand that kind of commercial core area beyond 3rd Avenue in probably an OCP amendment following the C4 review and the learnings that we'll get from that process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Council, any further questions before we entertain the motions here? Seeing none, I'd be ready for that. And remember that we have changed the date in the agenda. We're moving to the 7th was the date. That's right. Make sure the 7th was the date. Would someone like to move staff? Looking, there you go. Councillor Hamilton moves and Councillor Stoner seconds. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Hamilton? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It seems to me like this project is a very good example of a developer coming to the table, a proponent coming to the table with which exceeds our CAC targets by over 40% on one of the buildings, and then the 3,600 square feet for a local nonprofit, among other things, I think are great examples of what we can do with our CAC policies. So with that, I'm definitely in support of this development. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner?
Yeah, I'm happy to support second reading of this rezoning bylaw and to bring it to public hearing to hear from folks within the community to see what they think about this proposal. I think it has come a long way since we first saw it, and appreciate the proponents' willingness to work with us to try and find a happy medium and come in high above the CAC policy and really do something fairly novel that we've only seen in one other application, which is actually donate affordable housing space to another entity. So not just own it as the developer, but actually donate that floor space area, which I think is quite phenomenal to see. As I mentioned in my questions, I do still have some concerns around the precedent that this starts to set in terms of extending the C4-ish zone down 3rd Avenue and the the land use designation of downtown commercial center, and how that continues to evolve. But I don't think that needs to be burdened with this particular application. So I will continue to raise it just as a broader context piece because I think it's important for us to consider. But I am happy to support second reading of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, I'm happy to support second reading and eager to hear from the public and do want to acknowledge, and just for clarity of process, that we with this proposal, we did get into development permit type decisions, and I think appreciate the developer working with us on this. While zoning should focus a little more on uses and height and so on, it is sometimes hard to envision, if we do these things, will we end up with something that is actually palatable? And sometimes you need those development permit details to understand, yes, there is something palatable within the uses and height and so on we're discussing. And so I think for me, I've got to that place where I think this could be, all things considered, quite a good building. But also recognizing that when we eventually get to a development permit stage, some of these details may need to change. What we are locking down now is the height and the uses and the parking and some of those broader strokes details. I do appreciate too the attention to our climate emergency, the donation to a local nonprofit, and attention to the interface with the public space. So all the things that we are focused on or have been focused on as a council. So I appreciate the work that staff and the proponent have done there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pettingill. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll offer mine. I'm speaking in support of the motion. I'm happy to see the evolution of this project, sort of in the finer points since first reading. As others have mentioned, the donation of the units, or at this point it's expressed as a percentage of floor space to the local nonprofit, it really is amazing. It's a freehold donation, and often in these situations we're just ensuring that a below market rental gets constructed, and we don't get into who owns it. And I know this is an extremely valuable asset to our community nonprofits to have this asset. And I really commend the developer for the creativity to get here. There's, I think, the other paths that are clearly offered in our CAC policy are smoother and less expensive for them. And I think it should be celebrated that that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing the smoothest and least expensive way forward. We're seeing a creative way forward that really benefits our community in a meaningful way. And then on to the buildings themselves. I think the mid-block cut-throughs are really important. As a downtown resident, when those cut-throughs exist, I sure use them, and it shortens my walk, generally in the rain when I'm trying to get somewhere downtown. And with our earlier today, we spoke about the challenges of smaller lots, but that's one of the challenges of downtown. The other one is these quite strangely shaped long blocks, and these mid-block cut-throughs are extremely useful to actually make sure that we're creating a truly pedestrian-friendly environment. And of course, there's the frontage improvements, and it's quite a commendable package of amenities for our community. I look forward to the further refinement as we enter officially into the DP phase, and see what ADP has to say as well throughout that process. And most importantly, the next touch for us will be a public hearing that's coming up quickly, where we'll be able to hear what the community has to say about that. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And we have to do the other side of this. Was that both together? I think the result would be the same. So we're going to do the other side of the next one is the other side of the street. I see Councillor French, second by Councillor Stoner. My comments were to both sides. Does anyone else wish to speak to this one? Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on. Thank you. Oh, yes. Thank you. Should we take a 5-minute while we wait for staff for the next piece? Is he right behind you, or do you need a bit of time? Okay. Hello and welcome back. So Council, this topic is for 37707 2nd Avenue and consideration of third reading. We had a public hearing, and we've had a chance to onboard and process the information that was provided to us, and we're here to consider third reading. Is there anything from the staff perspective before we proceed? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I believe the only thing that's missing in the staff recommendation was the no gas covenant to be added.
Thank you. And that would be, so can we consider this added to the staff recommendation? So we'll just amend that recommendation to include a third bullet that has, was there a specific wording for that no gas covenant? I don't want to just be, do you need a specific, and could you provide that?
Yes, we could just say that registration of a Section 219 covenant that no gas be permitted on the property.
Okay, thank you. So that now constitutes the staff recommendation. That's what we'd be considering. Councillor Pettingill?
I was going to move that.
Okay, thank you. And there's a seconder, Councillor French. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, I think I am happy to support this. I was glad to hear from the public. I think there were some important concerns raised, and referring to some of my questions, it is trying to sort out. So it's I-1 zoning now. It's going to CD 104. Thank you for the number. And there's also non-conforming residential uses, and then there's the OCP where that says we should go. And so trying to weigh all those pieces together, I think in my mind, what's proposed has a good balance between all those things and moves us reasonably in a good direction, considering what could be there right now. I think the parking concerns, from my perspective, the solution there, I'm looking for a more holistic solution. I think, and I've expressed it before, that we aren't going to solve our parking problems by bringing more cars downtown, and more parking means more cars and more car problems. And so I think there are other solutions that clearly we need to look at for here. But I think I am excited to see businesses and buildings for businesses. I think the proponent talked about this as a building for 100 years. So thinking about in 100 years, what sort of, do we want a building built around cars 100 years from now? In my mind, we don't, given the problems we have. So I think this is, I don't want this building to be solving downtown Squamish's parking problems. I think we all sort of acknowledge a bigger solution is required. So I am a little bit skeptical about the tandem parking in general, but I think that's overridden by the fact that I think a building that is not focused around parking is where we need to go. And so businesses will need to, that move here will need to plan for that in their business model, and maybe expect there's more stringent parking enforcement around that to protect some of the other property owners in the area. And I think too, in my mind, the no gas covenant helps also skew towards businesses that have that green, future focused business model in mind. And so from my perspective, these things go together. And so I think lots of compromises, some good ideas here, and happy to support this. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor. And speaking in favor of the motion, I first want to thank all the people who spoke earlier tonight, spoke eloquently, bravely, and brought some good points in front of us. And just want to focus in on one of the comments from the proponent around how challenging these small lots are downtown. This one being an empty lot, I'm happy to see that it's being moved to a higher and better use with what's proposed, and the jobs that are expected to come with it. So this project highlights small lot downtown issues related to things like elevator sizes, which we talked about early in the process, the parking, which we heard about tonight, and also privacy. So recognizing that elevators ideally should be large enough to accommodate ambulance stretchers and e-bikes, but elevators of that size are expensive and they take up a significant amount of room in a building that's as small as this one. And to satisfy the parking requirements, we've got tandem parking in this case, and we've also had other creative solutions downtown, like we see with the Pod Hotel with the lift system. And as we see in this example, the existing homes in this area lose a bit of privacy with the tall structure being built next door or in close proximity. So in light of the challenges, it's actually pretty amazing to me that owners of lands like this in the downtown area are coming forward with development proposals. So I want to acknowledge the risk that is being taken by developers like this. And I have some thoughts on the parking concerns that we heard tonight. They're legitimate, they're real. And we've even seen pictures that were provided. And I'm thinking ahead a little bit. By the time this building is constructed, I'm confident that our transit service will be improved, particularly into the downtown. And I think that this is an important detail relating to the parking concerns for this part of 2nd Avenue. It isn't the parking solution here, but it will help. It will help to be part of the solution and address the parking situation. So all of that to say, I'm in favor of 3rd reading for this rezoning.
Thank you, Councillor French. I have Councillor Stoner and then Councillor Greenlaw Anderson.
Thank you. Through the chair, I will be supporting the motion on the floor for 3rd reading. I want to thank everybody who came out and spoke this evening at the public hearing. Rezonings are challenging because they focus primarily on density and land use. And ideally, I think it's really challenging to try and imagine what is actually going to be on that lot when we don't have really strong visualizations of what the design is going to look like, the massing of the building. We're still fairly early on in the planning process. We're looking at land use and density, not necessarily form and character of the building. A lot of the concerns that I heard this evening were around form and character, and I do believe that our process through development permit area guidelines when this project comes forward for DP will be addressed during that time. That has to do with landscaping, design of the building, massing, interface with the road and things like that. So I am confident that those concerns will be addressed as we go down this process. Specifically to some of the things around density and land use that I do think are important to address that I heard this evening is the variability in different types of uses that we've allowed in the zone. And I think going to Councillor Pettingill's point that he picked up from the proponent, thinking of this building over the lifespan of 100 years means that we have to balance the need for flexibility to allow for change over time, while also recognizing that that might create some uncomfortable situations because we don't know exactly what's going to go in that building today or tomorrow. I think this is always the tension that we have with putting in specific land uses in our zones. But developers aren't totally, they don't have their blinders on. They know that they're developing within a neighborhood context. And businesses who are going to move into that space are hopefully going to be cognizant of who their neighbors are, and they want to be able to put their business somewhere where they can thrive as well. And I think there's an intention to recognize how that process unfolds. And so I feel comfortable with the variability of uses that we've allowed in this zone. With regards to the parking concerns, I hear them loud and clear. I actually used to live down in this neighborhood 6 years ago, and parking was an issue back then, and I know it's only gotten more challenging since more businesses have opened up. But those issues already exist. Not to say that we shouldn't necessarily just say that that's okay and we're going to exacerbate them, but it means that we need a more systemic approach to addressing the challenge. And I want people to know that we are in the process of doing that through the parking utilization study downtown. And it requires parking demand management. So not just how much parking are we requiring from each individual new development that may actually provide more parking on site than what is currently available in some of the units. But it means that we need to actually start to figure out how we move people along. Perhaps there's some form of permitting system for people who live in the area. Those are the things that we need to start considering so we have a more systemic approach to our parking challenges downtown.
That's why I will support third reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stoner. Councillor Greenlaw, followed by Councillor Anderson.
Thanks. Through the chair, I will not be supporting the motion. I'm working on the assumption that the building design presented is representative of the best use of the property under the proposed rezoning, and I have concerns about the functionality of the suggested building. I appreciate that it's difficult to develop these lots, but that does not mean that we should be introducing buildings and potentially businesses that may not bring net benefits to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Speaking in favor of the motion, I'd like to first address some comments or observations made by the architect representing the project. Spoke to the desire for a variety of uses in a long-term 100-year lifetime for a building, flexibility, and I believe Mr. Hunter used the word sustainability. I may not have used the phrase building resiliency, but I will. I think we should keep in mind that green building involves three things, not just operational energy efficiency and no gas covenants, but also embodied carbon, which will be increasingly part of our discussion as we look at buildings and projects like this, but also building resiliency. And I think that the efforts in this regard are very good in the present project. We've heard from the neighborhood phrases like mayhem, nightmare. I have experienced this and do often in this street. It is such. I try to park in the small boat harbor when I visit the cidery. I have to sometimes. The observations have been made regarding the safety of traffic in the neighborhood, also from both Mr. Hansen and from Ms. Caroline Miller about the types of vehicles that are using this street and the alleyways, commercial vehicles, vans, trucks, types of vehicles that don't fit easily into our parking stalls and structures, and who have specific requirements for turning and maneuvering. And we had also another speaker speak to this. We're also adjacent to truck route, and perhaps there's more work to do, and thinking always thinking about this nearby truck route and what we need to consider for that. So safety, I appreciate all of these comments, and we'll have to consider them all going. However, as the proponent or the architect has pointed out, we cannot solve parking challenges one parcel at a time. I agree. Whether it's active transportation strategies, or parking demand management, or parkade solutions, this belongs to another discussion. And I am concerned that we did not give adequate attention to the terms of reference for the current initiative in the parking strategy that we'll hear about soon. I suspect that this will just be one leg of an ongoing effort in parking strategy. So finally, this area is challenging. It has a history. The lots were all surveyed 1909 to 1912 during the Newport boom, when we were going to be a city of 50,000 in a fairly small footprint, hence these small 50-foot lots. The transition has involved the railway ownership all this time and gradually selling off parcels, and it was going to be a buffer zone between the downtown and heavy industry to the south. There's never been industry here, folks. We did hear that. That's not correct. So the transition from an earlier concept of a buffer zone with I-1 zoning has been clumsy, and it will be clumsy ongoing. However, I must applaud the spirit of not only the neighborhood, but also the project proponent in striving for a vision for what we have in our OCP for this neighborhood, a creative neighborhood where new things can happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton.
Thanks very much, Mayor Herford. I'm going to be speaking in support of this motion. I absolutely heard from the residents of the neighborhood that parking concerns are very real. I do believe we need, as many of my colleagues have said, a more coherent parking solution in downtown. And we cannot solve these problems one lot, particularly one small lot at a time. I think balancing our community's needs for employment spaces with these parking challenges, it's a difficult challenge. The proponent has come to us with 10 parking spaces on a 6,000 square foot lot and 12,000 square feet of employment space. And I think that's a good creative solution, trying to balance these two very real challenges. So I'll speak in support of this motion.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the motion. I think the having the just over 10,000 square feet of employment space downtown on such a small lot is actually quite remarkable. I think I understand the community's concerns around the broad uses. I think the potential risk that represents in sort of the current state as to who the tenants are. I think that the smaller footprint of roughly just over 3,000 square foot of floor really limits the exposure to what could possibly the possible negative impacts there. And I do acknowledge that area needs would benefit from some attention. That is a project that's in its infancy to sort of address the streetscape and better address potentially address street parking and so on in the area. I think there are real concerns around, as Councillor Pettingill points out, those the current state where there's a residential buildings directly next to these the newer buildings, and I'm hoping that some concessions can be made through the DP process to address some of the concerns that were raised, such as privacy and so on. And I will be looking for that through that process when this comes back to us from there. And I'm happy to see that this is a proposal that was considered a priority development proposal, given that it was 100% employment space. And I'm happy to see that proponents are taking advantage of that, and we're getting the outcomes we're looking for, which is employment space. Employment space is incredibly important to our community, so we're not baking in the commuter aspect that we're seeing. We need to create spaces to employ people locally to achieve all sorts of our goals, from economic development to our community climate action plan that involves giving people places to work in Squamish and either getting them off the highway, or when they move here, not having to put them onto the highway to earn a living and conduct their business. So I'm happy to see this move forward. I do acknowledge there's some challenges yet to come, and we are in a lot of ways working on those solutions, but we don't have those solutions yet to present. But the folks that spoke tonight did a very good job of framing what those challenges are, and I don't think any of that was particularly new information to council or to staff, and there's a lot more work to do. So thank you to the proponent for being flexible throughout the process, and to staff for their work on this. So with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Greenlaw opposes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. So moving on to section 10A. So staff reports. Oh, sorry, I skipped. I made notes over top of that. Are you, so section C, adoption, District of Squamish, additional hotel room tax levy bylaw number 2580, 2017, amendment bylaw 2954, 2023. Moved by Councillor Stoner, second by Councillor Hamilton. Any comments on that? We're at adoption. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And now we're moving on to staff reports. Item 10A is from Community Services. We're looking to appoint an animal control officer and bylaw enforcement officer. Is there a staff presentation for this? No, or would you like to?
I can speak to it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
So the district has currently lost its animal control officer. She has moved on, as well as the other staff member who was appointed as animal control officer. So we're coming forward now. We've got somebody who is eligible to be a animal control officer, and we're lucky enough that he was internal and is currently a bylaw enforcement officer. So we're looking for animal control officer to be added to his designation, appointment by council, as well as Mr. Rawlings, we discovered had been appointed as a bylaw enforcement officer, being the manager of bylaw enforcement and animal control. But we would like also to have him designated as an animal control officer.
Thank you very much. So, and as a matter of process, can we group these, or are these two separate appointments? They need to be separate. Okay, so you're going to be separate, council. I'll move the first one on our list, which is for Frank Rawlings to be appointed as an animal control officer, as well as a bylaw enforcement officer for the District of Squamish, pursuant to the community charter. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Greenlaw seconds. Any comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We're on to the second portion of this. And sorry, can someone pronounce Johnny's last name correctly for me? I should have, pardon me? Tamias. Thank you. It's late in the day. Johnny Tamias be appointed as an animal control officer, as well as a bylaw enforcement officer for the District of Squamish, pursuant to the community charter. I will move that. Councillor Hamilton seconds. We'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you so much. We had no late agenda items, no correspondence for action requested, nothing referred from the consent agenda, nothing in approval of minutes referred from the consent agenda. Any business arising from minutes? Seeing none. Committee minutes and reports. We just move receipt on these, or would you like to? Yep, Councillor French.
I have a note here that there is, in the first set of ADP minutes, a Jessie Fletcher typo. Oh yeah, she's listed as Jessie Planner in the February 17th minute. So that should reflect Jessie Fletcher instead of Jessie Planner.
Jesse Fletcher, who's a planner.
Yes.
Okay, we got it.
And then in the second set of minutes, there's an incorrect date. And I was just trying to quickly find where that. I think the header at the top just has the incorrect date.
Could you clarify what date it says and what date it did say?
I should have made that note when I did this work, but I didn't.
That's okay. Maybe we can. Why don't we move the first one as corrected? Is that? No. Yeah. Thank you.
So
I took a swing at it. I'll let you correct me to how I'm supposed to handle this. Go ahead.
we will let ADP know. So council doesn't approve the ADP minutes. The panel themselves do. But we will make a note of the, because they're basically housekeeping, we can let them know that that happened.
Okay. Thank you. So for our purposes here, we just move receipt, and then we can provide the feedback on the corrections, and even offline if needed, if there's a date that's okay. That's fine. So we'll move. Can I have someone move receipt of these three? So Councillor French moves receipt. Councillor Hamilton seconds. All in favor. Motion carries. Council, any notice of motion? Seeing none, we'll move on. Council, we have no council in staff. Council or staff in camera announcements. It is getting late. Sorry, folks. We have no unscheduled public attendance. Open question period? No. Okay. And council or staff announcements. Go ahead, Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor. Just wanted to highlight that the Squamish Climate Action Network hosted a community gardens discussion the evening of Thursday, January 26th, the Squamish Valley Golf and Country Club. Squamish CAN is planning ahead for new and improved community gardens around town. A small group of enthusiasts got together to talk about what the revitalized gardens could look like, sort of drafting up a wish list, waving a magic wand, throwing everything at the wall to see what could potentially stick as planning progresses. So Crystal Tenbrink and her team with Squamish CAN will take all the information that was gathered that evening and use it to create a plan. And I also wanted to share our sister city in Japan, Shimizu, is participating with us in a virtual student exchange. This is instead of the traditional in-person exchanges that have been traditionally held. Don Ross Middle School grade 8 students created a welcome video that introduces the school and the community to fellow students in Japan, in Shimizu. The final edit of the video was shown on Wednesday, January the 25th at the school. Now, I had planned to be at the premiere of the screening, but a work commitment got in the way as I arrived, so I couldn't actually view the world premiere of the video, but I did watch it later on YouTube. A significant amount of time and energy clearly went into the video, and it does a very good job of representing Squamish. So I just want to acknowledge the students and the staff that were involved in the creation of the video, and I'm very happy to see that we're reconnecting with our sister city, Shimizu. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I just wanted to report the first meeting of the new library board met on the 18th of January, and it was great to start to become familiar with that board and the work that they're doing. They are very enthusiastic about future plans for the library, and I look forward to working with them over the next year or so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner?
Yeah, a few updates. 2 weeks ago was the Squamish Silhouette Regional District meeting, and there's a few things that came out of that that'll be of interest to this council. The first is adoption of Furry Creek occurred. So the rezoning down at Furry Creek, fairly large development. Included in the community amenity contribution for that rezoning was $5,000 for each market dwelling unit to be spent within the district of Squamish. So at total build out, that's $3.75 million that will be coming through the SLRD to the district of Squamish to offset the impacts of that level of growth just down the street from us. So that is phased over time as that development occurs, but a fairly substantial contribution there that we'll see over time. So I just want to make sure that staff and council and our community were aware of that. There was also, which has happened every year for the past few years, $40,000 from Area D and the District of Squamish Payment in Lieu of Taxes Fund was allocated to the Squamish Valley Agricultural Plan implementation for the coming year. So that is a really great area where we collaborate again with Area D to implement some of our key issues on food security. My other council colleagues can speak to anything else that I may have missed on SLRD, but I also want to flag that the Squamish Community Housing Society is also very busy at work. We had 2 days of strategic planning at the end of January as well. And so the board is working really hard to try and nail down from all the documents that the previous council had put together in terms of establishing the society, trying to figure out how we really kind of hit the rubber on the road and put our work plan together for the coming year so we can get more housing built in this community. So the Squamish Community Housing Society will hopefully be coming to council at some point to present the strategic plan in the coming months. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll come back this way too. So Councillor Pettingill?
Yeah, two things I'll highlight, and I hope I'm not stealing someone else's thunder here, but last Tuesday was the 5th Tuesday of the month, which typically means we don't have council meetings, but we did get to go on a tour of the oceanfront, and there was snow, and so it was beautiful but cold, and actually quite exciting. You had to have a bit of imagination, but the site is nearly at its height with all the fill there. The first building, the show center and pub, is the foundations are in, and that's going up. And so we had a preview of the sport beach and the I'm not sure if recreation beach is the term they're using, and then a third sort of riparian natural beach. And so it's really starting to come together. It's exciting. What I was hearing is that a year from now, we should be able to use that park and get to it. So I know it's been a long time coming, and I think all of us often get questions about when is this going to be accessible? When is, all these great things we've heard about, when is it coming? So the work is well underway, and we're hearing about a year from now we should actually see what looks like will be quite spectacular. And then I had the opportunity, I'm acting mayor this month, and I was able to attend a celebration for the Emperor of Japan. And so the council conciliary office invites local governments and sort of important Japanese citizens to this celebration. And I guess this is something that a pause was put on this sort of thing, but apparently many countries do this, and it's to facilitate partnerships and trade. And we do have that relationship with Shimizu, which I think some of us are eager to see us learn more about and interact more with our sister city. So it was just a little bit of a fascinating experience and an opportunity to sort of connect with other parts of the world. We do sometimes get really focused on what's happening in Squamish and just sort of being able to sort of, oh yeah, there's this other world to interact with, and actually opportunity and interest in our area. The people I spoke to there had all been to Squamish, were very positive on Squamish. And so it was a very interesting and a fun event to go to. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Councillor Greenlaw? Nope. Councillor Anderson?
Mayor Herford, I'll just briefly pass on that I was in attendance last night at the Squamish Baptist Church with at least 4 of my colleagues, Councillor French, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Stoner, Councillor Greenlaw, and I believe that we all, I think, benefited from our attendance there, and the event was hosted by Denise Imbo and featured 3 speakers, Paul Kindery focusing on, I think, carrying capacity, if you like, of the community, and Devin Bilden on transportation planning, and Shan Warburton on livability. And my main takeaway that I would pass on is that I was impressed by the high level and broad kind of scope of the presentation, made well researched, and should actually be some inspiration for us as we proceed in the remainder of the Garibaldi Estates Neighborhood Plan to keep that big picture in focus. And that was definitely the focus in the event last night at the Baptist Church, which had a number of good people come out despite the rainy weather. Thank you.
Thank you. You're right, Councillor Pettingill. You stole someone's thunder. Where I had the Spockwas Park as on my list. I'll speak to it briefly. It was, I'd seen sneak peeks from from across the way or up the gondola, and it was really nice to get a chance to get down there and start to. You don't have to do quite as much envisioning when you're standing there now as to what's going to go where. It's really starting to take shape, and I'm really excited to see that the water access to our community for our community to the water has been a challenge, and when that park comes online next year, we're going to have access that we've never had before. It's truly remarkable, and the work done there is great. I'm looking forward to spending a day at the beach with the community. Hopefully many days will be spent down there. So that's taking shape. I'd like to mention the ongoing work of the Youth Council. The group that we have working there is truly remarkable. They've come up with this concept to hold a Bears Den competition to basically fund a nonprofit's project for $10,000. There's information's on our website, and I know they're all over Instagram as well. So if you're a local nonprofit and you're interested in some funding and some programming to benefit youth, I encourage you to check that out. The application period is still open, and there is an upcoming event that you'll start to hear about that the community will be invited to attend to see the nonprofits all present to the Youth Council, and then for Youth Council to choose a project that has that they feel will have the largest impact for youth in our community, and give away a cartoonishly large $10,000 check. I'm really excited to see our community's youth having a direct decision-making role in how our funds get spent to support youth in our community. And I'm looking forward to the first event. And I believe, I'll leave the promotion. That's upcoming. You'll start to hear about attending the specific event. Yesterday, I was lucky enough to be able to attend the throne speech in Victoria, and Jordan Sturdy, our MLA, extended the invitation. And in the preamble to the throne speech, they were talking about all the people that passed away in the province that were of provincial significance, and among them was Tor Froslev. It was a special little piece of my first time in the legislative building, and Tor is a legend not only locally but at least as far as the province goes. So that was a nice little Squamish piece there, and I enjoyed my time with MLA Sturdy, and did have opportunity to meet with various ministers and MLAs as well following the event. So it was time well spent, and had a really special Squamish connection with or without me being there. So Tor was there on our behalf. I think I'll leave my update there for now. So moving on, we have next on the agenda will be motion to close, so that the meeting be closed to the public in consideration of pursuant to Section 90 of the Community Charter for litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. And I'll move that. Seconded by Councillor Stoner. All in favor? Motion carries. We'll recess and reconvene in the closed when we can do so.